Hey Rebels, I want to take a quick moment to share something super exciting with you. If you've been feeling stuck, disconnected, or just know there is more to life than what you're experiencing, I have something special for you. I have created a powerful 6-step video series called Unleash Your Potential, an introduction to the Angelova Method. As a valued mind-body podcast listener, the series is my gift to you. In this series, I will guide you through the core elements of the Angelova Method, a unique approach that integrates movement, mindset, and mastery to help you align your body, mind, and life. You will learn practical techniques to improve your alignment, boost your core strength, and connect deeply to your inner self. Whether you're looking to enhance your physical health, gain mental clarity, or simply live more fully, these videos are designed to get you started on the path to your most vibrant self. And the best part, it's completely free. So if you're ready to break through barriers and unleash your full potential, head over to mindbodyexpert.com and get started today. Let's take this journey together, because you, my rebel, deserve nothing less than the extraordinary. Hi, Rebels, and welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And today I have a very special treat for you, as always, and that is Panos. Let me make sure I don't slaughter that. Papadiamantis. Did I get it right, Panos?
You got it right. Thank you,
Yay!
Maria. Thank you for having me.
The stressful part of my job of being the host of this show. So Panos is the co-founder of PNOE, which is a phenomenal new tech company that does breath analysis. And Panos and I had the fun opportunity to connect at the recent A4M conference that I attended in Vegas. And I actually got to do the test, which I thought was so cool, because we'll get to talk a little bit more about that. But Panos, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here with
Thank you
us.
so much for having me, Maria. And it's very nice to reconnect.
Yes, it's
We
great to see
met
you.
in the craziness of Vegas.
Yes.
A4M World Congress is utter nuts, especially for those exhibiting. But it's very nice to reconnect in a calmer setting.
Right. And just have a conversation. I
Just
love
have a
it too.
conversation. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for people to get to know you. So first of all, I have to say we're neighbors, right? I'm Bulgarian, you're Greek. So right there, we have a great starting point. But Panos, give us 3 words that tell us who is Panos, and give us a little bit of a backstory behind each word so that our listeners get to know you.
Yeah. Panos is an engineer who decided to start discovering the human body because he felt that the most interesting system around us is the human body. So I started my academic career as a mechanical engineer. That was back in Greece. Then I did my graduate degree at Stanford. Again, engineering, but focused more on software development and math. Spent some time in the tech space. I was in Silicon Valley for a few years working in enterprise data centers, and went on to Oracle to do enterprise SaaS. So very, very different stuff from what I'm doing now. And then at some point in time, my good friend Apostolos, we've been friends since the age of 6, was doing his PhD in Cambridge, that is Cambridge, UK, on sensing technologies, and was starting to look into the field of breath analysis. And through that process, he basically came up with the idea of building a breath analysis device that effectively became the birthplace for PNOE. At the time, we reconnected. We were vacationing in Greece when the idea of this breath analysis device came up. And we decided that we're still young, and, we might as well just go out and pursue an interesting endeavor than working boring big tech jobs, right? So we decided to give it a shot, and started building PNOE back in 2017. And so the idea, as I said, came from the intention of building a breath analysis device for the mass market. A little bit of information on breath analysis. It has been around for about 100 years. It's a very well-established assessment. And it's also known as metabolic testing or VO2max testing. In the clinical world, is also known as cardiopulmonary exercise testing. And we don't use these terms because they don't really encapsulate the full breadth of insights that this assessment can provide. So just for people to understand what breath analysis does, it's an assessment where you put on a mask and at a very fundamental level analyzes oxygen concentration, CO2 concentration, and flow volume. And so by looking into these three fundamental signals, you're analyzing 23 biomarkers that give you an understanding of how the core systems participating in oxygen delivery and carbon dioxide clearance are operating in the human body. If you think about it, breathing is the most fundamental thing that is happening in your body. It's what is keeping you alive at any given point in time. If you cut out oxygen in a matter of minutes, you're dead. And that is because every single cell in your body requires oxygen in order to burn nutrients, produce CO2 and energy that it needs in order to power your vitals, move around, and pretty much live, exist, right? And so because of this very fundamental nature of breathing, if you think about it, every major biological system in our body was developed in order to support what is called cellular respiration or metabolism, right? You have the lungs absorbing oxygen, you have the heart and the circulatory system pumping that, and then ultimately you have the cells absorbing that oxygen, bringing it in, using it in your mitochondria to break down fats and carbohydrates, and then that process produces energy, which we need, but then also CO2 that is then cleared and channeled outside through exhalation. And so by analyzing these 23 biomarkers that you derive from breath analysis, you can look at the fitness of the pulmonary system, the cardiovascular system, and then the cellular system is what we refer to as the oxygen chain. And it turns out that breath analysis is the only assessment known to science that can reliably look into the fitness of these three systems individually, but also in unison. And as a result, many big organizations, including the American Heart Association and many, many other organizations, have openly labeled breath analysis as one of the most important assessments. But it wasn't until we came along that this assessment became a thing, because devices were very expensive, very difficult to operate, lots of data coming out of these devices, with most health professionals not knowing how to analyze them. And what we did in PNOE is we made the hardware a lot easier and cheaper, more practical for the average clinic, but then also we built all the infrastructure that is required in order to make full use of that data, visualize it in reports that people understand, very much like the one that you got, but then also translating these insights into a personalized nutrition and training program that basically answers the what now that most people have, right, when they get some sort of results back from the test they did, right? They
and
have a problem here,
sorry,
you
go
have a
ahead.
problem there. Okay, what do I do now?
And I'll tell you, I used to use, I'm not going to mention any names, but I tried a competitor of yours who does breath analysis. And that was the one thing I did not like about their product, is because they told me the facts. And it's like, okay, so if I want to change anything and make it better, then what? What do I do? There was like no action plan. And if there is no action plan to change anything, then I have the data, but I don't have anything to make the changes that are necessary to change the data.
Yeah,
so,
and I want to really highlight that issue. One of the biggest, reasons why breath analysis didn't become a thing until recently, until we came along, was because devices were expensive and difficult, but also a lot of people that did VO2 max tests or resting metabolic rate tests didn't really feel they got anything out of it, because the report and the analysis didn't capture the whole spectrum of insights that are actually there, and B, they didn't provide any sort of like guidance. Okay, what do I do? How do I change my training? How do I change my nutrition? How does breath work influence my regimen, and so on?
Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast. I'm your host, Maria Angelova, and I'm here to challenge everything you have been told about aging and wellness. This podcast is for those who refuse to accept that growing old means growing unhealthy. Each week, I will bring you dynamic conversations with inspirational guests, sharing practical advice, insights, and motivation to live your life rebelliously as you age with grace and vitality. This is your time to embrace self-care, transformation, and an infectious spirit that says no to the conventional and yes to a vibrant, powerful life. Let's dive in and redefine what it means to live well. Yeah. So let me ask you, for people who are listening who have not tried this test or watching, when I get the report, and I got the privilege of getting the report done, and I had excellent results, which was extra exciting. But what things are they going to see on the report? Like if somebody is like, I'm curious of what is this test? And okay, I hear what you're saying, but what am I going to get on the report? So can you give us some examples of like the actual things that will be listed on the report, Panos?
Yes, 100%. So going back to the oxygen chain that I referred to earlier, you have the lungs, you have the heart, and then you have the cells. There's, in the report, there's a little bit more analysis on these systems. In addition to these three systems, you have the nervous system function. That is also something that we analyze. You have the blood delivery function, which is what is happening in blood circulation. And then in the lung system, we break it down between the respiratory, which is your breathing muscles and your breathing apparatus, and then the pulmonary, which is the actual lung sacs. And then in the cells, we also break it up into the energy component, which is your resting metabolic rate, and then your fat and carbohydrate oxidation, which is the fuel utilization part. So you can think of it as basically scores related to all of the systems that I discussed. So you get a score for how much your sympathetic and parasympathetic systems are activated. You get a score of how well your respiratory system, which is again the mechanics of the breathing, is working, and how good the lung sacs are working. And then all this information going down from the lungs all the way down to the cells and metabolism. So for every single score, we explain, what it means to be at 50% or 75% or 100%. And then we also give you specific exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle recommendations on how to improve that or maintain that score. It's, even the analysis and how we break them up is a core educational component in the experience, because I will just reference perhaps the most interesting and recurring theme of aha moments that people have when they do the test. A lot of us have breathing problems that we're unaware of, and these may be respiratory in nature or they may be pulmonary in nature. Respiratory nature means that we have some sort of mechanical issue that is blocking us from breathing well. And that may be a deviated septum, that may be sinuses, that may be an anatomical issue in our rib cage that is obstructing the efficient expansion and contraction of our lungs. These are very common problems, by the way, and they may be a consequence of, poor mouth, nose formation, because of the food that we eat and because of the fact that we do not breathe as much with our nose. We can start to develop these abnormalities, which will, over time evolve into poor breathing patterns. And then we have a lot of cases of people that have latent pulmonary issues. For example, they may think that the childhood asthma they had was treated, but it's still there. A lot of people, especially where I'm at in South Florida, have been exposed to toxic mold. They're not aware of it, and toxic mold is causing issues, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of cases where people have respiratory issues that they're totally unaware of. And the thing is that these respiratory issues, they may not be life-threatening, even life-debilitating at that point in time. However, poor breathing patterns will yield an increase in sympathetic activation. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight. The parasympathetic is the rest, chill, recover.
Digest.
Yeah, a lot of the sympathetic activation means you're constantly in a high stress mode. that can mess up your cortisol, that can, cause a lot of different issues, right? But then also poor breathing can cause distortion in the CO2 levels in the blood.
Yeah.
Too low CO2 means that you cannot deliver oxygen across the body, because when CO2 levels in the blood drop, oxygen gets more tightly connected onto hemoglobin. And so cells have a harder time extracting oxygen from hemoglobin. And so all of your active tissue across the body gets less oxygen. And the system that is the most sensitive to that reduction in oxygenation is the brain. And so this, constant um, um, hyperventilation that a lot of people have ultimately can cause this constant mild hypoxia in the brain, and ultimately through neuroinflammation that can lead to neurodegeneration. And so there's all of these second and third order effects that may stem from something very simple, which is how we breathe, right? And just by doing a test that is going to tell you how well you breathe, you can understand a lot of things about your health today, but then the most important thing, your health in the future.
Long term, yeah. And I would say with the work that I do, physical and mindset work, is I can relate to a lot of what you're talking. And sometimes we joke with clients, because clients would say, "Oh, thank God we breathe automatically," because sometimes we get so rushed that we might forget to breathe. And I mean, they're joking about that. However, you're probably seeing a lot of what I'm seeing is that people, like you said, they're too much and too long into their sympathetic nervous system, as a result of which their breathing becomes very shallow. From what I see, the poor posture, the slouching, the phones, the computers, their body gets locked up. Their ribs don't expand as much. They are unable to take a deep breath. And I'll tell you, Panos, maybe I share this with you. One of the biggest ways I test for people's stress levels is I'll tell them take a deep breath. And I watch how they take the breath. And if they do, that kind of tension, it creates a lot of tension into the upper body, the neck, the shoulders, but that is also a very inefficient way to get oxygen into the body.
Totally.
So a lot of what you're saying goes hand in hand with the work that I am seeing. And actually, I do want to ask you about one more thing, which you kind of have like as the bow around everything that goes into the test. That is, you guys also measure biological age, right? So based on all of these biomarkers and based on all these functionalities that you're testing, you're saying how well is really your body aging. And I mean, I'll tell you from where I sit, kids nowadays are aging way faster than the older population because of the habits, the lifestyle habits that they have.
Yeah, this is so unfortunate. There are so many KPIs that indicate that, our generation is going to be the first generation that's going to be unhealthier than the previous.
Yeah, you're way younger than I am. So yes, you're the next generation.
And I think the most alarming one is the one around cancer, right? My generation is going to have more cancer than the previous one, which is,
yeah, disturbing
thing. But then, to your point about biological age, if you think about the oxygen chain that I reference, lungs, heart, cells, that, trifecta, there's one metric that captures the entire operation of that chain, and that is VO2 max. If you think about it, this chain is like 3 pipes connected to each other. And so the bigger the pipes, the more oxygen can flow through. And so the maximum amount of oxygen you can push through that chain goes up. That means that these three systems are stronger, they're more powerful, they're bigger. And so that indicates a higher VO2 max. And that's why a high VO2 max is a very good indicator of overall longevity, because it sort of encapsulates the operation of these 3 systems. And that's what we use in order to calculate your biological age. We obviously do exercise tests with our device. If you haven't done an exercise test, you only do the resting test. We get an estimation from the resting test about your VO2 max and then your biological age. It's not exactly the same in terms of accuracy as getting the actual measured value from the exercise test, but still a good enough indicator for you to understand if you're beating the clock or if the clock is beating you.
Beating you, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So if anybody is like, wow, I want to do that test, like, how does
Mhm.
this work? Where can I obviously got it done at the conference?
Mhm.
Where can people do this test?
Absolutely, great question. So we have a locator that I'm going to share with you, and you can share it with your audience. People
Yep.
can go there, find some of our most trusted affiliates where they can schedule an appointment and get tested. And then we will be attending about 60 different trade shows this year,
Wow, crazy.
predominantly in the United States. We're going to be in all A4M conferences, other big ones like IFM, and AMMG and many others. There's going to be a list at some point, but if you want to inquire directly about PNOE, or if you're a health professional running a clinic who's interested in getting PNOE in your facility, then just visit us at www.pnoe, that is pnoe.com. And there's a link. You can schedule some time to talk with one of our representatives. If you want to follow all the different stuff that we do, you can also follow us on Instagram. We are PNOE Analytics, and we post a lot of things about the new product launches we're doing. We started with breath analysis, right, and the device, but then we very much saw the need to provide a holistic solution for
Sport.
clinics to be able to provide an insightful analysis to their customers that doesn't just encapsulate breath data, but a lot of our clinics also do blood data, DNA data, and now we have the ability to fuse all of that into our report so that customers get one report for all of their lab work. And in
Comprehensively.
addition to that, we do a lot of work in the prescription realm, the wellness prescription realm, in the sense that we develop nutrition and training programs for our affiliates and then provide these to the end consumer. As I said before, there's no need, there's no point in developing highly sophisticated diagnostic tools if we do not have an effective way of answering the what now question
What's next?
patients
Yeah.
have after they go through these very sophisticated assessments.
So, Panos, if anybody is listening, they're like, wow, I want to do the test, but I want to go in like best shape of my life so that I can have
Yeah.
an amazing biological age. What I mean, I preach lifestyle. I imagine that a
Mhm.
lot of what you guys have, and as you suggested, you work on nutrition and exercise regime and stuff like that. What would you say are some key things that people can take like right now? They're listening right now. What are some
Mhm.
of the key things that are I always say the basic pillars of health are not going to go away. That's really what's going to keep you young and strong and aging well. What do you say based on all the
Well,
tests you have seen?
okay, so if I'm to answer the question, what does one need to do in order to be healthy? There's four things. Eat well, move well, recover well, love and be loved. These are the four things
I
that
love
we need
it.
to have in place in order to be healthy. However, um, it actually becomes a little bit more complicated because, every biology is different, and
Yeah.
also every biology has been adversely affected differently. And so I don't know if your obstacle to better health is improving something in the lungs or is improving something in the cells. And the training and the nutrition that I would give you if I found the lung issue would be different versus if I found a cellular or metabolic issue. So yeah, you can obviously take the generic advice, very eloquently put, these
Yeah.
four things. But then if you want to be more specific and practical, then, you need to start with a test and understand where your limitations are.
And you know what? I love that because I teach movement, but I don't focus on just movement. I focus on how you move and the precision of how you move so that you can get better effects. And when you're speaking, that's what it reminds me of. It's like, yes, you can take the baselines, but then you can do the stuff specific to you, right? You and I grew up in a different ways. We had different environments, different environmental factors
Mhm.
that impacted our mindset and how we see the world. And I'll tell you, I had a very interesting conversation. This is probably an offline conversation with a colleague who also did the test, and we were surprised by her results. And I was like, I bet you this has to do with your positive mindset, because she was, falling short on some of her lifestyle factors, but she's very positive and an upbeat person. So I would love to, actually, if you want to comment on that, I would love to hear if somebody is not sleeping well, is highly stressed, it's okay, but has an amazing mindset. Why do you think their biological age might not be as much negatively affected? That was my guess, but I could be totally wrong.
Well, it goes back to what you actually are doing, in, around the day, and like the totality of the evidence
Yes.
around your lifestyle, right? A person that may be more positive, may be more likely to exercise more, or maybe more likely to move more, and that may be the reason why they have a higher VO2 max and ultimately a lower biological
That's
age.
good.
In addition to that, people that have a positive mindset, they have a better time like regulating cortisol, right? And
Mhm.
better regulation of cortisol means they sleep better at night. And
Mhm.
because they sleep better at night, they're able to push it more at the gym or be more active, and so on and so forth. So, I'm a very big believer of biology over psychology, in the sense that we can do very basic things in our exercise, our nutrition, and our lifestyle
Mhm.
that can very much negate the adverse and negative effects that stress may have on the body. There's, undeniable evidence that stress is bad for you, but there are basic things you can do in terms of nutrition, training, and recovery that can mitigate these things.
And I agree with you, but it's so interesting. I like the statement that you make, because that's really making me think. Because I'll tell you, I've done so much mindset work. And from where I sit today, I'll tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I used to be very stressed, very anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And I did used to exercise. I used to do a lot of HIIT type of activities, which were only challenging my body that much more, because I know my adrenals were fried. So
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of working against my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done so much mindset work, which I'm like, oh my gosh, like I think mindset work, it's interesting what you said. I actually have to think about that. I think there is a lot you
Well,
can do from a mindset.
ultimately you can, too much exercise or too
Mhm.
much,
Of
eating of
anything.
something
Mhm.
can be, harmful, right? I'm not arguing
Mhm.
that the more exercise you do, the better. As a
Mhm.
matter of fact, we actually test a lot of people that have compromised metabolisms and would be considered weekend warriors and are exercising too much. And as a matter of fact, we're now seeing a lot of such cases of people who are also on GLP-1s, and
Mhm.
they're not just overtraining, they're overtraining while also putting their bodies in a caloric deficit, and that is
Yeah.
increasing the stress even more, right? So I'm not arguing that someone should do that, but to your point about increasing, like, doing mind work or doing recovery, yeah, one of the first things that we would advise someone to do if they were overtraining is like rest more, right? The
Mhm.
third
Yeah.
pillar of health is recover better and sleep better.
Yeah.
To what extent it's mindset work
Yeah.
or better recovery?
It's fascinating, but
Yeah.
that was a great statement that you said, biology over, that's interesting. I have to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't let you go without you telling us what is your definition of rebellious.
Oh, wow. Um, I wasn't expecting that question, but if I may, what is your definition of rebellious?
What is my definition of rebellious?
Yeah,
My definition of rebellious is staying true to who you are and doing life the way you believe you should, not what the world tells you.
I see. No, um, totally. I may have to think about it, and then I'll send
Okay.
you my response.
I love it.
Right now.
We'll add that. We'll add that to the notes. So
Yeah,
actually, what a great way for you guys to follow the notes and get to the
yes,
link that Panos is
exactly.
going
Yeah,
to send us.
yeah.
Well, I'm
Awesome.
glad that I got to stump a scientist and somebody as brilliant as you with a question like, what
Thank
is
you.
rebellious means?
Thank you. Thank you. No, I'll definitely, give it some thought. I actually like the term rebellious, and I don't want to give you like a generic answer. Uh,
You want to think it
it's one
through.
of these questions where you want to put a little bit more thought behind it.
I love it. I love it. I can hear the engineer in your Panos. I
Yeah.
love it.
Appreciate it. Thank
Listen,
you.
On that note, thank you so much for being here with us. I know you have a jam schedule and you're doing so much greatness in the world. So I wish you and team continuous success. I look forward to seeing you in person again in Florida. And you guys ask any questions that you have. We will add the links on YouTube and Buzzsprout. So, or the whatever podcast platform you're listening to, check them out. Ask any questions, connect with PNOE. And Panos, thank you again so much for being with us. You guys share that information with anybody who might find it beneficial. And most importantly, do not forget to stay rebellious. I will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Mind Body Podcast, where we explore the power of living authentically and rebelliously. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow rebellious soul who would love to hear what we share as much as you do. Stay strong, stay calm, and most importantly, stay rebellious. Until next time, rebellious souls, keep living fully. Your journey is just beginning.